if you are a Mac user, there is tons of benefit to actually having a Windows computer. I'm a guy who does a lot of editing, a lot of video work, especially in like Blender, After Effects, that kind of stuff. But this is mainly a tech channel, so I'm not going to talk about that. Instead, I'm going to talk about PC versus Mac. And so I basically had a journey with Mac and PC kind of at the same time. When I was younger, I used Mac primarily, and then I kind of moved on to using like a PC laptop and stuff like that. But I feel like one of the issues with PCs is that a lot of them are very underpowered because they're not meant for video editing. Most of them are meant for like document editing and like doing things like that. So I realized that as I grew older, my experience with Windows and PC has been like a lot worse than Mac has been, just because of the tech specs and the requirements. Now, a few weeks ago, I was looking online trying to find a PC case, because I have a PC, but I barely ever use it. It kind of just sits in the corner. I mainly use my Mac. But I wanted to find a PC case and maybe upgrade a few parts and see if I can get a better PC. And that's when I stumbled across this thing. Now, this video isn't like PC versus Mac, which one's better, because I feel like a lot of people kind of miss the point with that. And the point is that they're both very different operating systems. I mean, I've worked for a company like in their corporate office, and obviously they all use Windows computers, and the Windows computers were great. I loved using it for that specific purpose. When I'm doing video editing and stuff, I just always grew up with Mac, and I always kind of sided towards Mac just because I like their file explorer. I like how everything's laid out. But a lot of that is probably because I kind of grew up with that and I know how that works now. But if I grew up with Windows, I would probably be more swayed to Windows. And one of my good friends also uses Mac now, but he started with Windows. So it's kind of a different experience. I sort of dabble in between the two ever since I bought this computer. I think a good comparison is that you need to find the right tools for the right purpose. So if I'm doing something on Mac that can be done better on Windows, it's like using a screwdriver to hit in a nail. I mean, you could do it, but obviously it's not the right tool for that purpose, and you're probably gonna miss out on a lot of things just because you're doing that. And so with video editing and stuff like that, there's a lot of really cool softwares, especially for 3D modeling, that are only available for Windows. And there's a lot of services that are also only available for Windows. But I love my Mac, and I love that I can bring it anywhere and work on projects that way. So my Mac kind of serves as more of a workstation. I do a lot of editing of documents and stuff like that there. And then Windows serves as more of a video editing rig and stuff like that. And that's kind of something I've been working with for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. I just recently bought this computer since I moved down to my college dorm. I'm going to kind of cover some of the issues that I believe Windows has, that for Mac users, it's kind of a hurdle to get over that. But I think that if you are a Mac user, there is tons of benefit to actually having a Windows computer and Windows desktop. And the one I have right here is about $800. Obviously, that's a pretty big investment, but what's cool is you can kind of pick and choose what pieces you want depending on what you're trying to do. I mean, this one's a bit more powerful since I'm using it for rendering and that type of thing, but you can obviously get a lower spec one if you're trying just to do video editing and photo editing. There's obviously lower spec ones that could do that. And I think that it's something useful for Mac users to even just look at. But if you're a Windows user, it's also great because I think a lot of PC computers kind of don't look the best, but we'll get into that later. This is my old PC case. It had RGB on it and stuff like that. And I honestly don't get the craze behind RGB. It's pretty bright and it's really distracting when I'm like trying to work on stuff like that. So I'm not a big fan of that. There's also these like ultra minimalist ones on Amazon, but they all have this weird look to me that I personally don't like, and I don't think they accomplish the same goal as like a MacBook would. I feel like Macs, especially like the Mac Studio and stuff, are very low profile but very powerful computers, and I think people enjoy them for that, and it's all one seamless experience that works out the box. Pretty much all the PC cases I looked at all have that like vibe to them, except for this one. Granted, it's small, but I do enjoy that actually about it because I feel like a lot of the PC cases were huge. I mean, these things took up tons of space. Do I put them underneath my desk? Because that's kind of weird. Do I put them on my desk? And I wanted a PC case that kind of like fits the vibe of my overall desk, just like something that I enjoy looking at and enjoy using. And my PC case, my old PC case, was just something that I did not enjoy using. And I feel like that's a big problem with PCs, is that they all have that like sort of vibe to them where it's like either industrialist, like it's something that just is used to get work done, which is cool. I mean, I understand the reason for having that. Having something that's a little bit more fun can really help you work on stuff and not get distracted by your PC case, because it's like, why do I want that while I'm working? Even the good alternatives that I found on Amazon are all a bit too minimal, and they don't really achieve that same vibe that Apple does with that like metallic feeling look, you know? And that takes me into my second problem. Building PCs is just way too complicated. I feel like for a lot of Mac users, it's just you buy it out the box, you get it, and like everything works. But PCs, this was like crazy to actually build, because it's like you have to find the right parts, the right pieces, and I didn't even know that mini ITX cases existed. And so I bought a mini ITX case, but I bought regular size parts thinking that that would work, and I didn't even know there was a difference. And maybe I'm stupid for that, but I probably should have did a little bit more research on the case. But when I bought the case, it came in, I tried to build it, and it was a whole hassle of I had to buy certain parts and they wouldn't work with the other parts and things like that. And I'm sure there's resources online, but the best resource I found was ChatGPT. I literally asked it like what case I need to fit, and I have GPT-4, so it kind of did all the calculations. So that actually came in handy like a ton. But initially I did order a lot of wrong parts, and I had to send them back to Amazon, wait for my refunds. And let me just say, sometimes Amazon refunds you the money, but it refunds you in Amazon credits, so you can only buy stuff off Amazon again with whatever money you spent, which was fine. I just had to wait like 15 days before I could even see that money to reorder the next part. But I will say, once I got all the parts and once I put it together, it was very rewarding. It has that sort of IKEA effect to it where it's like I like it even more because, you know, I built it. And there is a bit of future proofing to it because obviously I can switch out the parts, although it is mini. So some things like a 4090, which obviously I'm not going to get, but a 4090 would not actually fit in this PC case because it's too small. But some of the other graphics cards wouldn't fit, so I ended up putting a 4060, which I would say is comparable to like an M2 MacBook, but there's really no way to compare it because there's really no way to compare it. But honestly, everything runs smoothly on the computer. But one thing about this case and just this PC overall is that once you get it working, it does have some of that magic that I feel like Apple has. You just flick on the lever and the whole thing starts up, the system starts up, and everything boots in. Now let me talk about the worst part of this computer, lastly, which is Windows. Windows is like the vein of my existence, and again, like I said in the intro, it might be something that I grew up with and just something that I've always known, but Windows, like, it irks me pretty bad. Like I was talking about, the Bluetooth just doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes I start up the computer and the keyboard just doesn't work. Even if like I plug in a wired keyboard, it just isn't typing for no reason. Like I don't understand what's going on. And there's other things that, like when I first opened certain software, and I've used Windows before, but never like on a daily basis like I do now. But when I opened an app, right, it took a lot of processing power, my fans kicked up, and then the whole screen turned white for like 10 seconds. And I freaked out thinking that I like installed Windows wrong or something, or installed the wrong software. But it turns out that was just something that I did. And like I asked my friend, he said, yeah, it'll do that sometimes. Or like the crashing. Sometimes I have stuff that crashes. Although I will say I've never had it happen on this computer. I feel like it's a lot more powerful. Some of the more underpowered computers that I've used have a lot more of those crashing. It's just something that doesn't work for me, and if I'm trying to work on something and I keep having these crashes, I feel like it just brings a ton of issues. And Windows also doesn't make sense to me in terms of its efficiency. Like sometimes I'll open up a browser window and the fans kick on like crazy full speed. And then sometimes I'll be like rendering something high speed, or my friend was playing like Tears of the Kingdom on this thing in 4K, and there was like barely any fan noise. It did heat up a bit, but really there was no fan noise. And one thing that I found funny was I was actually watching this guy who did, it was his first time using Mac, and a lot of the issues he had with Mac are the issues that I have with Windows. And that kind of leads me to believe that this is something that is not necessarily rooted in how the system is designed, but how everyone personally views the system based off what they've used in the past. I mean, if you're talking about like someone who uses Linux, like I feel like they would not enjoy either one of the softwares because there's no customizability when you're comparing it to Linux. But if you are a Mac user trying to switch to a Windows computer, then I feel like this is the way to do it. And not necessarily switch, but kind of tag team them. I mean, get the best of both worlds. It's kind of like if you're working at any professional level, I feel like there's going to be things that don't work on your Mac that you're going to need a PC to do. And one other thing that I love doing is like sending things out to it to render them and then sending them back to my Mac. Because I do like working on my Mac. It's super power efficient. I can bring it on the go. I can work on crazy 3D projects anywhere I want, which is something that I just really can't pass up. And with this computer, I feel like it helps me a lot with getting that processing power and offloading it somewhere else, especially since I do use it as like a main computer sometimes. Most of the time I am on my Mac, but it's just nice that it could be off to the side, like doing its thing. And then I could still be using my Mac, bringing my Mac to class and stuff like that. Now, if you want to learn how to make your PC more like a Mac, I got a video coming soon. And not necessarily in the way it looks, because I feel like a lot of people try to conform Windows to Mac OS or vice versa. And they're just different. They're just two totally different things. And the way that they operate, I mean, they're literally polar opposites in terms of like some of the hotkeys. Instead of hitting command, you'd hit the control key, which is like 2 keys over. So I had to swap that because that really was really annoying every time I'd switch. And then it's like closing Windows is actually on the other side than it is on Mac. So that part's also really annoying. But overall, like, it is something that is great. And I feel like once you overcome a lot of these hurdles, which took me probably like 2 or 3 months to even figure out, get everything together and build the computer and then deal with the software stuff. Once you overcome all of that, it definitely is worth it in the end. I mean, I feel like I can work on a lot more projects than I could before. Especially because this YouTube channel, I haven't even posted in like a year. Subscribe if you want, by the way. A lot of the things that I feel like were hindered because I didn't own a PC, now I can work on. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed me talking and ranting about a PC for like forever, be sure to drop a subscribe. And if you didn't, you know what button to hit. But yeah, I'm pretty much out of here, but I'll be back next week for another video. And get ready for weekly uploads until I start a semester and then I'm gone for another year. Nah, I'm playing. Alright, see ya.